Volume 3, Chapter 7, Psych 100 students. How are you doing? I'm hoping that you're all watching these films and getting something out of them. This is the third film or video from Chapter 3, and I'm going to wrap up where we left off and give you the review. Now, first thing I want to mention is we were talking about Howard Gardner and his multiple intelligences. This idea that we have more than one intelligence. Check this out. We got some pretty cool images of some famous people. Albert Einstein, who I saw an image this morning where he was giving a lecture at Lincoln University. Primarily his audience was African Americans, and he was talking about racism. He called it racism white person's disease, which was interesting. We have the one of the spelling bee contestants doing his thing in 2012. We got the rapper Eminem, who also is from Detroit, like myself. We've got the skydiver who jumps out of from outer space back into the Earth's atmosphere. Why? To see if it could be done. And we've got Oprah Winfrey, who I'm sure if you had met her when she was a young woman, you might have written her off and thinking, this woman is going to fail, fail, fail. And of course she goes on to amazing success. So what are we talking about here? We're talking about what some people would say levels of success, levels of skills. Howard Gardner calls them multiple intelligences. So here's some of the examples of the multiple intelligences. One is linguistic. How many of you out there in the viewing audience are bilingual? Can either understand or speak another language besides English? Some of you are trilingual. Some of you are multilingual because you also know American Sign Language. People who are linguistically gifted, language flows through them. Remember that image I just showed you of Eminem? I saw an interview with him one time, and he was talking about how he keeps a pad of paper with him at all times. And he likes to jot down words or combination of words just in case, and apparently he saves them, puts them in a box someplace, in case he wants to use them for a song later. So it's constantly flowing through him. And most rappers, if you listen to their ability to spin words, it's incredible. And some of you are linguistically gifted. It wouldn't surprise me if you picked up another language, you would excel at that language too, given time. It just flows through you. Or my math logic people. For my math logic people, have you ever sat in a math class and literally watched people pull out their hair because they can't figure out how to solve the problem? And you're sitting there thinking, wow, this problem's pretty easy. You don't want to say that out too loud to make them feel bad. But math flows through you, right? It's not an issue for you. It's just very natural, right? We've got our musical intelligence. Where are my singers out there? Don't try to deny it. I heard you singing one time in your car, in the parking lot. Where are my musicians? Remember some of those instruments you picked up and played for band or messed around at home? Some of you are musically gifted. It wouldn't surprise me that if you mastered one instrument, you could pick up a similar instrument or even a different one and master that with time. You just have that skill, that ability. Some of us have that desire, but it just doesn't manifest, me being one of them. My grandfather was musically gifted, high in Gardner's music intelligence. Could pick up any instrument and play it almost instantaneously. Me, made a few attempts, maybe beat on a couple garbage cans. That's about the extent of my ability, right? Although I do like to sing. Spatial intelligence. I mentioned the checkout guy at Albertsons throwing things into my grocery bag. This reminds me of one of my brothers, not Luis, but another brother who was helping me move one time. And when I was in college, I was constantly moving. You would swear the FBI was after me. Well, J. Jonah Jameson certainly was. And every time I move, it's a hassle. You get a moving truck, you look at all your stuff, and then you have to figure out how much of it's going to go in. And I would look at my stuff and look at the size of the moving truck and say, okay, we need to make 3 trips to get everything. And my brother would look at the stuff and say, 1 trip. Because he had excellent visual spatial ability. He could see exactly how things could be stacked in the truck, and he was right. 1 trip. Excellent visual spatial ability. Where are my current or former athletes out there, my body kinesthetic people? Are all athletes created equal? Of course not. I've been waiting for the Lakers to call me. Now they don't need my help, so I don't think they're going to call me. But yeah, they're not even playing right now. But essentially, some people are just extraordinarily gifted. They can walk first day of practice and make the team, maybe even varsity, and they've never played the game before because they just are gifted. They can fly through the air, right? Jump higher than anybody else, run faster. Of course, they could be steroids, but yeah, you know my point. Interpersonal versus intrapersonal intelligence. So now we got a little bit different phenomena here. We have people who are interpersonal, so they pick up on other people's vibes, their intentions, their emotions. Politicians have to be particularly good at this. They will shake the baby's hand and kiss the mama. Actually, that's kind of harassment, but yeah, they connect with people. And that's what we need them to do, because if they want your money or they want your support, their vote, then they need to connect with people. Intrapersonal, that's usually that drawing we see of the old wise person sitting on top of the mountain, and we go for them for answers. And that's why I haven't done anything to my hair to darken it or anything, because when people first come into the class and they see this gray old haired man, they think, oh my God, that guy's so ancient, he must know something. So it's a good illusion sometimes. And finally, we get naturalist intelligence. Now, does anybody out there have, or maybe you have a relative or somebody in their life, perhaps you, that is really good at gardening? They can throw stuff in the ground and it grows. They've got the green thumb. Or maybe somebody who's really good in working with animals. Those are high people and high in naturalistic intelligence. My son, I believe, has that skill. He happened to be walking along with his older sister and his aunt, walking another aunt's dog. And suddenly, 2 Rottweilers had broken free from their chains and were running right towards my son, his sister, and his aunt, and the other aunt's dog. Joaquin, who was small at the time, he looked to his older sister and his aunt to see what should they do with these Rottweilers running right towards them, and he suddenly realized that they had run and left him there. As the Rottweilers approached, he just simply took his hand out and said, "Shh!" And the Rottweilers stopped in their tracks, turned right around, and went back to their homes. Now, either he's high in naturalistic intelligence or he's a Jedi. I'm not sure which. True story. So, take a look at these. Some of you excel in more than one, just as I mentioned before. Now, Gardner has been criticized for not really listing any intelligence, just really listing skills. But I like the fact that he has all these different types, because the more he has, the more chances I've got one. So, bravo, Howard Gardner. Things happen as we get older. You can see a lot of our skills start to reduce, or as some people say, you start to decay. And usually in class, they look right at me when they say that, decay. But that's true, but it's a complicated reason as to why. Changing information, lack of interest. If we're just looking at certain types of intelligence, yes. Wisdom, gosh, I wish I knew all this stuff now that I knew when I was younger, so to speak, right? So, let me challenge your brains one last time with this simple word exercise. Take a look at these little boxes And each one gives you a clue as to what the expression is. Look under A1. What a common expression do you think that might be? I'll start it off with you. Just under the wire. Like when you turn in something like your chapter notes right at the last minute, you got it just under the wire. How about B1? See that little triangle in the budget? What do you think that one's indicating? Actually, that means balanced budget. C1, I hardly ever get, and then you may give one to me now, but I'll never know it. Standing ovation. How about D1? Take a shot in the dark. How about E1? For those video game players, you know this one. This is old school. Space Invaders. Baseball fans, although we'll have to wait till the season begins, for A2, bottom of the ninth. When we're happy, which we might be if we come back to campus, we're sitting on top of the world. C2 is an Old Navy expression, all hands on deck. D2 is what some of you are doing right now because you're not watching this video, skinny dipping. And the last one, E2, love at first sight. Do you think there's such a thing? What did you say? I thought I heard some of you say lust at first sight. Okay, to each his own. Now for the review. There's a question that came from chapter 6 that kind of has something to do with today. So this question is actually from chapter 6, but it kind of folds into chapter 7. So I've saved it for today. And that question is, describe the best way you learn. What concept from chapter 6 is related? Now, you'll have to review chapter 6 notes as well as your reading and answer that according to your best way to learn. And you all have different ways of learning. Hopefully your learning isn't suffering because of this particular technique we're using today. Number 6 is actually from chapter 7. What is the history of the Army Alpha test and the bias in intelligence? So the United States has a horrible history when it comes to intelligence tests, and especially in our attempts to rid ourselves of bias and intelligence. We haven't been all that successful. The last question, of course, deals with Howard Gardner's theory of intelligence and examples that you have experienced. So kind of review that list we went over and let me know which ones you have or you've seen in action. And with all these questions, because they're worth 5 points each, I want you to be as specific as possible. Here you're not limited to time and running out of time. Here you can really think about what you're going to type up and send to me once I give you the actual exam questions, which are very similar to these reviews. So there will be no surprises. You're going to have approximately a week to do this exam. So that's plenty of time to really think and explore, and you look at your notes and use whatever you feel is necessary. I just want to make sure it's your work, right? You're going to be sending me those responses as you've been sending me the notes, and please continue, as I've mentioned before, continue to send those notes to me via photograph, via Canvas, via attachments, email, whatever form or fashion you possibly can. Always do it the very first class of the week. So chapter 7, I've already got a couple people submit chapter 7 already from a couple different sections, but some of you haven't submitted chapter 6 yet, and I'm sure you're about to do it any minute now. So the sooner the better. I'm signing out for chapter 7. You're good for that, and look for the video for chapter 8 coming soon. Same place, same station. Take care of yourself.